All right, so are you ready to dive into a phone that's a few years old but still pretty cool?
Yeah.
The Samsung Galaxy S20 FE 5G. And we're using this great article from RechargeMyTopup.com.
Sounds good.
And this phone had some really interesting features, like triple cameras and a battery that won't quit.
It was a pretty big deal,
Yeah,
especially back when it launched. Samsung wanted to give people like flagship features without the crazy high prices.
like the best of both worlds.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about the phone. So it has this 6.5-inch Super AMOLED display. I know AMOLED is like
Yeah.
really good, but can you remind me why that is?
Sure. So AMOLED, it's like every pixel is its own tiny light. So you get these really vibrant colors and blacks that are like super deep. It's pretty impressive.
Wow, okay, so the colors are like super vibrant.
Yeah. And the blacks are like, boop, like looking into space.
That's awesome.
And this phone also has a 120 hertz refresh rate, which means everything moves super smoothly.
Oh, wow, so like scrolling through Instagram.
Yeah, exactly. It's like butter.
Okay, I'm sold. But does this phone have like the processing power to go with that awesome screen?
Oh yeah, it does. It has the Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 processor. This chip was like a beast back in 2020.
Oh, wow.
Like it could handle any game you threw at it, no problem.
Even the really demanding one.
Especially those.
That's impressive.
Yeah, most phones back then would like struggle and lag with those games. But the S20 FE 5G just kept going.
Wow, so even though it's not the newest phone,
Mm.
it can still keep up.
Absolutely.
What about the memory and storage? How much can this phone handle?
So there are a couple of options. You could go with 6 GB of RAM, which is like having 6 assistants helping you run all your apps.
Okay, that's a good way to put it.
But if you need more,
Yeah.
you can go for 8 GB.
Okay, so the more RAM, the better the phone can multitask.
Exactly. And for storage, you've got 128 GB or 256 GB built in. But here's the best part. You can actually expand it with a micro SD card.
Oh, wow, so you can really store a lot.
Yeah, it's like a bottomless backpack for all your digital stuff.
That's perfect for people like me who take a ton of photos. Speaking of photos,
Mhm.
this phone has a triple camera system, a 12-megapixel main camera, a 12-megapixel ultra-wide, and an 8-megapixel telephoto. Is that just for show, or can it actually take good pictures?
Oh, it can definitely take good pictures. It's like having a pro photographer's toolkit in your pocket.
Really?
Yeah, the main lens is your go-to for everyday shots. It captures great detail even in low light.
That's important.
And then you have the ultra-wide lens that's perfect for landscapes or group photos where you want to fit everyone in.
Yeah.
And lastly, the telephoto lens lets you zoom in without losing quality.
Oh, wow, so this phone can basically replace my DSLR.
Well, maybe not completely, but it can definitely take some amazing shots.
That's really cool.
Oh, and don't forget the front-facing camera. It's 32 megapixels.
Wow.
It's perfect for selfies.
Okay, I'm officially impressed. Now let's talk about staying connected. This phone supports 5G, which means really fast downloads and uploads if you have 5G coverage. And it also has a 4500 mAh battery. What does that mean in real life?
So with moderate use, you can easily go a full day without needing to charge it.
Really?
Yeah, things like social media, taking photos, streaming videos, you can do it all.
That's great.
And if you do need to charge it, it supports fast charging, so you can get back to 100% really quickly.
That's awesome. So this phone has the looks, the brains, and the stamina.
Mm.
But what about the other features? The ones that make a phone really enjoyable to use?
Oh, you mean like quality of life features?
Yeah.
The S20 FE 5G has a bunch of those. For starters, it has an IP68 rating for dust and water resistance.
Okay, I'm always confused about those ratings.
Well, imagine you're caught in the rain, or you spill your coffee on your phone with an IP68 rating. This phone can handle being submerged in water for up to 30 minutes.
Oh, wow. So it's pretty durable.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about it getting a little wet.
That's a relief. What about security?
It has a side-mounted fingerprint sensor built right into the power button.
Oh, cool.
It's really easy to reach and super responsive.
I've heard good things about those side-mounted sensors.
Yeah, they're a good compromise between the in-display ones and the rear-mounted ones.
And this might come as a surprise, but this phone actually has a headphone jack.
Yeah, a lot of phones are getting rid of those, but
Yeah.
Samsung kept it on this model.
I love that. I still use my wired headphones.
Me too.
There's just something satisfying about plugging in.
I agree.
Okay, so we've talked about all the individual specs,
Hmm.
but how does it all come together in terms of the user experience?
It's really smooth. The combination of the processor, the RAM, and the storage makes everything feel fast and responsive.
So like apps open quickly
Yes,
and multitasking is easy.
exactly. Even demanding games run without any problems.
So it's not just about having good specs on paper. It's about how they all work together.
Right. The S20 FE 5G just feels good to use.
That's awesome. Okay, so we've covered a lot, from the display to the camera to the performance, but we're not done yet. There's still more to talk about when we continue our deep dive.
Of the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE 5G. So we've talked about a lot of the hardware. But what about the software? The S20 FE 5G came with Android 10 and Samsung's One UI.
Right.
What's your take on One UI?
It's kind of like a mixed bag. It has a ton of features,
Yeah.
and you can customize it a lot, which some people really like,
Yeah, I can see that.
but it can also feel a bit overwhelming if you prefer something simpler.
Like too many options.
Yeah, exactly.
Personally, I like having options, but I can see how it could be too much for some people.
Yeah, it depends on what you're looking for.
Okay, so One UI is powerful, but maybe not for everyone.
But yeah, I think that's fair to say.
Let's talk about the design of the phone. The article mentions that it comes in a variety of colors and that it has a plastic back.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Well, I think the multiple color options are great. It gives people more choices. And the plastic back, it's not as premium as glass, but it's more durable.
Right, you don't have to worry about it shattering.
Exactly.
It's a trade-off.
Yeah, but I think it's a good one,
Mm-hmm.
especially for a phone that's meant to be more affordable.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered pretty much everything. The display, the cameras, the performance, the software, the design.
I think so.
Anything else we should mention?
Oh yeah, the article also talks about the price.
Oh,
When it launched, the S20 FE 5G was significantly cheaper than other flagship phones.
that was a big part of its appeal.
Yeah, it made those high-end features accessible to more people.
So it was like a flagship killer.
Kinda, yeah.
Okay, so to recap, the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE 5G was a really impressive phone. It had a lot to offer at a price that was hard to beat.
It was definitely a standout device.
Now we want to hear from you, our listener. Considering everything we've discussed, what do you think is the most important feature in a smartphone? Let us know your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. And until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep. All right, so we're back, and it's time to wrap things up. We've talked a lot about the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE 5G, but what are the big takeaways? What makes this phone so special?
Well, for me, it's all about value. This phone proved that you don't have to spend a fortune to get a really great phone.
Yeah, it had all these high-end features,
Mm.
but it was still affordable.
Exactly.
And the fact that we're still talking about it today shows how influential it was.
Definitely.
What do you think is the most impressive thing about this phone?
That's a tough one. The display is amazing, the cameras are super versatile, and the battery life is incredible, but
Yeah.
if I had to choose, I'd say it's the overall performance.
Yeah, it's not just about having the best specs on paper. It's about how well everything works together.
Right. And the S20 FE 5G just felt so smooth and responsive.
You mentioned the software earlier. Samsung's One UI. What are your final thoughts on that?
Well, it's definitely a powerful interface, but it can be a bit much if you're not used to it.
Yeah, some people might prefer something simpler,
Sure.
but I like that Samsung gives you the option to customize it.
Yeah, me too.
One last thing I want to mention. I'm really glad that Samsung kept the headphone jack on this phone.
Me too. It's a small thing, but it makes a big difference.
Yeah. It shows that they were thinking about all kinds of users.
Definitely.
So to sum it all up, the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE 5G was a fantastic phone.
Absolutely.
It had a beautiful display, powerful performance, and a great camera system, all at a price that was really competitive.
It was a great value.
Now we want to hear from you, our listener. What do you think is the most important feature in a smartphone? Let us know in the comments. We always love to hear your thoughts. And that's it for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us,
Thanks for having me.
and see you next time.